What is up, podheads? Tony here, back with the Podio Slave podcast again. And I am always joined by Anthony and Nate, and they're here somewhere. I gotta find them, but I'm excited that you guys are back listening to this episode in particular because it was a great one. Anthony, Nate, how are you guys tonight?
My name is Anthony, and actually, there was, I don't know if it was like a Twitter post or somewhere, they were like, attention podcast hosts, introduce yourselves, because it could be someone's first time listening.
It could
so
be.
if it's your first time listening, I'm Anthony, and Nate, you're here. How you doing? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, Nate here. Yeah, I guess I should introduce myself. Well, especially because it's not video for the most part, right? It's just audio that we put out. So
yeah, the intro is not going to be video. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good call. So yeah, we had a great interview tonight, and this band, I'm looking at my travels and seeing who's touring. This band is actually on like 3 of my travel plans. So I'm like, ah, sweet, dude. They're definitely on the road. Awesome fucking band. Awesome talk with Brent from August Burns Red. Yeah, Geek Fest. This was a Geek Fest, I feel like.
Totally. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to dial back to you, travel plans. Are you going to check them out is the question.
Yeah, if it lines up with my travel plans, which I think like I'm going to Austin, I'm going to Seattle again. Like they're on like 2 of those stops randomly because obviously the routing goes usually east to west or vice versa. So for one of those trips, 100%. If I can pull it off 100%, it is a work trip.
So Nate's one stalker out there who's been listening. Those are the places he's going. Follow him around. Yeah, go to the August Burns Red show in Seattle. You'll find Nate.
You have his itinerary.
Nate, give your birthday again.
My social is...
No, this is a great conversation with Brent from August Burns Red, and we're really stoked to have you listening to Podio Slave. Go back and listen to some of those other ones. They're coming up here in just a second. We'll explain to you some of those bands that we've talked to in this scene. But hey, Brent was awesome. Check out the new record. Check out August Burns Red on tour. We're ready to go. Hey guys, Tony here again. Here's my name, just in case you didn't get it the first time. And we have an awesome back catalog. Listen to Death Below from August Burns Red first, and then go back and check out our conversations with Jesse Leach of Killswitch, Justin Foley of Killswitch and Libica, Tuck O'Leary of Fit for a King, and the guys from Half Me, Chris and Chris from Half Me are back there. So go check those out. Go to podioslave.com for all things nerdery, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
All right, we're here with Brent, the guitarist, August Burns Red. Appreciate you coming on the podcast with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Brent, we always obviously do some digging on our guests here, doing some homework, and you're familiar with Concert Archives, right? The website?
Yeah.
So based on just some basic math here, you guys have at minimum played 1,800 shows, and that's only what people have submitted, right? So we know it's more than that. So are you...
Right.
Are you dialed in with like old venues that you played?
Pretty much, yeah. I remember a lot.
So I'm going to test your memory.
Okay, cool.
The Station.
Okay.
Portland, Maine.
Yep, downstairs.
What do you remember about that venue?
I remember everything about that venue. We played there a lot earlier.
You did.
The first time I Bury Dead in Terror, maybe even once before that, on like a short little local run with the Acacia Strain. I don't remember if that tour went there or not, but there was a music shop, like a guitar store next to there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I bought a Maxon Odie 808 pedal there because the little trick is that 5150s sound horrible unless you put a Tube Screamer or Odie 808 in front of them. So I went there to buy a new one because mine had broken. Yeah, I remember that a lot about that venue. Like, I remember one time we played there with Too Here to Die, and the guitarist tried to do this cool move where he like jumped up and like kicked it, like planted his foot on the wall and then bounced off. And instead, he just kicked down the wall next to the stage because it was literally
like particle board.
Yeah, it was literally just plywood. Yeah, I remember a lot about that. We just put out a like this teaser thing for the start of the tour, and I'm pretty sure that the section with our singer Josh in it is from The Station.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure. But yeah, we played there a couple times with him, like early on.
Early on. Yeah. Because that was our exposure. Like, that's the punchline is we're all from Southern Maine. That was our exposure. Mid 2000s. Like, there was a Life in Your Way show. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah. We've been there with Buried Dead, Terror, Life in Your Way, this Cheap Here to Die trip. I forget if we did Still Remains there or not. But yeah, we probably played there like 5 times and then it closed, or went away or whatever.
Yeah, which was a bummer because we saw a ton of shows there and they had everything. They had metal, they had hip hop, they had pool tables, they had it all.
Right.
Cheap drinks.
It was awful playing there though because you had to load all your gear down those steps.
Yep.
They didn't have another option, and you're just like, it'd be fine now in the days of everyone just using Kemper amps and going direct and not having guitar cabs. But back then it was like, I remember one time we were like, doing the whole thing where you have like 4 guitar cabs aside and we're playing there. We're just like
in that freaking location.
We're like, today we just have 1 per side because we're not dragging all this down the stairs. Like, no way. So
I roadied there and like rolled my ankle trying to carry someone's like turntables, which says do not tip. It's like, well, there's no choice. We have to go down these stairs.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I think there was only one exit there. Like it was like the station in Rhode Island. Like I think there was legit one exit.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's closed as a venue.
Yeah, probably.
Right. Because they're like, wait, you can't have any capacity in here because everyone has to run up steps to leave.
Yeah.
Like,
not ideal for that. And I mean, exposed wires. We've chronicled that on this podcast. Exposed wires from the ceiling and all this shit. Like it probably wasn't the safest venue to be, especially not for a heavy show like that.
No, the ceiling was low enough that someone could easily hit it for sure if they wanted to.
No point in meet and greet upgrades there. You just kind of hang out, right? Oh, dude, he's right. He's playing pool right next to me.
Yeah, the whole show is a meet and greet if you want.
So, you guys have a new album dropping, and by the time this episode comes out, it'll be out in a few weeks. So, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. Before we get into that, you guys have been a band for 20 years, and I was doing some basic math, and like, how old were you when you started ABR?
I was 18.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 18. Yep. I know. It's funny online. I think my son, who's 9, for fun, he likes to Google me. And he Googled me the other, and he's like, Dad, it says you're like 32. I'm like, that's a lie, obviously, because that would mean I was 12 when I started.
Well, that was the spirit of the question, because that's what we taught. And then there's like net worth estimation on there. Like you can go ridiculous.
I'm apparently really rich, so that's great. Good for me.
On paper, right? On paper.
Yeah. What people don't realize is that, the value of the whole band might be up here, but you can't just like sell your shares of a band.
Right.
And just be like, I'm quitting and selling my shares for this amount of money, and someone else is just going to buy them from me. That's not how it works.
That actually brought me up to a question. You guys are all probably pretty close. Same lineup since 2006, 9 out of 10 albums. So you guys have stayed pretty much the same throughout. That's very unusual, I feel like.
Yeah, we've been lucky in that way. I think that, early on, we just kind of decided that, like, if you want to push someone's buttons, you can push their buttons, but no one wants to be in that confrontation. And we're just lucky that, like, none of the guys in this band are confrontational people. Like, I think that that's when you kind of get into issues, because it's really easy when you're in close quarters to just pick fights if you want to. And no one wants to do that. And I think that's a lot of like bands' demise, is that like eventually 2 dudes end up not getting along and one of them just says, I've had enough, I'm out of here. And that just kind of goes and goes. But yeah, and we got lucky too. Like, we were able to pare down our touring. Like, we toured a ton in the beginning, and then by the time like 2012, 2013 rolled around, we could pick and choose what touring we wanted to do. So we didn't have to be at each other's faces like all year long. We could, be home for at least half the year at that point. So everyone breaks, and we just got lucky that way.
Once you become the band that has like a revolving door, like that's probably going to stay that way, because some people are just dazzled to be in the band. You know what I mean? So they'll just jump at the opportunity before like they really realize, all right, I'm going to be away from home. This is a real commitment. So the solid core still there. Shared vision, I'm sure, plays into it. Like, you guys have a mantra, and this is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's just here for the common goal. We don't agree on anything, We don't agree on religion. We don't agree on politics. We don't agree on a lot of stuff. But we are here for the common goal that we want to see how long this band can go, and we're going to do what we can to make it go that way. The common goal is to create music and play concerts and see how successful we can make this thing, and we can put our differences aside and easily do that. Like I said this in an interview that we had done with Rock Sound, that like the band is a good microcosm of how people could function. Like I said, we don't agree on anything. Like we really don't. Like the band split on politics, split on religion, but like there's more important things in life that you can put inside and still keep your relationships, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we keep this apolitical on purpose because we love music. So like that's the thing that we have in common, and it sounds like similar for you guys. There's so many different trends that have happened in your scene over the time that you've been a band. How do you guys stay relevant? Like what is like the common thing that makes you guys go creatively that, oh, we're gonna try something new this time?
You know, we just always write music that we want to hear, you know, as far as like metal goes. Like when we first started, none of us were huge fans of the whole, like, we're going to do a screaming verse and a singing chorus, and that's just how the formula is going to be. We weren't big fans of that. So we just kind of did our own thing and went like completely linear. And I think it was just different enough that people latched onto that. And, you know, as we've gone, we have some songs that have repeating parts now, but for the most part, it's still pretty linear. And that's just our style. And we've gotten lucky that the fan base we started out with really has stayed with us like through now. And then we've just been able to pick up new people along the way via like what they think is an exciting live performance or things like that. So, you know, we just kind of got lucky that people latched onto this sound early on as like a somewhat new sound, I guess. And they've just been with us. Like on this tour, I look out at the crowd and everyone's over 30. Like, they bring their kids to the meet and greet. Like, it's like, you know, it's cool to see. And, you know, we hope that we're still bringing some younger people in, but we're happy that we've kept everyone who's been there since the start.
Well, it's interesting looking at other bands' kind of trajectories, right? Because like, think about the last 20 years, all the trends. You had synth integrated, there's the Southern thing. Right. And you guys never really ventured too far from kind of that core sound. There's obviously chances taken, and we'll get to that when we talk about the new album, but I think people know what to expect, and that's a good thing.
If you like the sound, then that's that. You know, like we kind of made the decision early on, like, you know, none of us can sing really well. Like, you know,
come on, give yourself credit.
So like we weren't gonna be some band that's gonna like put out these like popular songs that get on the radio, or like even like hard rock songs that get on the radio. So we've just kind of like put out the music that we're known for and that we like, and we've gone with it. Like, you know, we didn't have to jump on a synth thing because our band was being, if your band is successful, you can keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to worry about that kind of outside stuff, you know, or the trends or things like that. And we've been lucky enough that our band's been successful at the sound that we have. So we don't have to say like, ooh, this synth thing is really popping off right now. Maybe we should add that into our songs and see how it goes. Like, you know, we just haven't had to do that. And that is just like a fortunate thing, you know, and so much of the music industry is luck. And the fact that we're still here after 20 years is just kind of proof of that.
You've kind of flipped a conspiracy theory of ours on its head, because you're doing everything organic and you're still getting nominated for Grammy Awards. There's like fixed
that's right
play here.
Yeah. I mean, the Grammy stuff was all kind of like Fearless Records. The product manager we had at that point, her name is Jenny Reeder, and she was just a freaking like pit bull. Like, she was like, I love this band and I'm going to do everything I can to put this band at a different level. And that was like her thing. We had no idea what she was working on. I woke up to a text message from, at that point in our career, from our manager, who was like, you guys got nominated for a Grammy last night. And we're like, what? Like, we just had no clue.
What?
Yeah, we had no, because like, like at the time, like there weren't metalcore bands who've literally never been on the radio getting nominated for Grammys. It was kind of like, I know it was at the time, it wasn't that long ago, but still, like in the last 7 years, I think you've seen a big kind of change, and bands like us are getting nominated for Grammys now, and that's cool. And that wasn't really happening prior to that too much.
Well, and that just, we've talked about this a ton with a bunch of different bands in the heavy scene. heavy music is blown up. Like, it's always been a thing, but it's become way more mainstream in the last 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, people are more accepting of it and understand it way more, and it's awesome that that's happening.
Right. It's really cool. Like, people are always like, "Oh, are you jealous of bands that do this? Jealous of bands that are like big like this?" And I'm just like, I mean, I'm just happy for them. I'm happy for a whole entire genre. All it does is bring the genre forward. Like, you have bands that have breakdowns that are on the radio, and like, I'm like, that's great. Like, that's cool. And it is awesome to see, because it is such a good style of music, and people who play this music have a heart for it. No one's here to be rich, like, because it's next to impossible to be rich playing in a metalcore band.
Although, if you look at the internet, that's almost conventional wisdom. Like, conventional wisdom suggests that, if you want to be rich, join a metalcore band. It's like, if I want to be rich, I wouldn't join a metalcore band. You know what I mean?
No. I mean, some of the guys do really well, but a lot of those guys, like we discussed earlier, have had a lot of members that have fallen off and gone away. So now you're left with two guys in the band who are the only actual members of the band. So they're collecting a giant pot, of what's there, and then paying salaries to the other dudes. So like that, I mean, if I wanted to be rich, I would just kick out all the other guys in my band, except for like,
make them sell their shares.
Yeah, except for Jake or something like that, and then it'd just be us collecting all the money. It'd be great.
Yeah,
Jake or JB, if you're listening, earmuffs.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, you guys have been this cohesive unit now for a while, and we've just talked about that a little bit, but you also co-manage. And how does that kind of work dynamically for you guys?
It's worked out really well. So JB and I manage a band, and then we also own and operate our web store as well, which started with the pandemic. It's been great. We had a good manager through like the beginning of 2016, who was a really good friend of JB's and I. And he just kind of got to the point where he said, like, we were really involved in general and just kind of micromanaged. And he was just like, you guys can do this by yourselves. You don't need to be paying me to do this.
Wow.
He's like, well, he's a good friend. Like, and that's the thing. Like, we valued the relationship we had with him as a friend more than we valued it as a manager band relationship. And so did he. Like, we would come off tour, and he'd be like, guys, I don't even really feel like I did anything on this tour for you to pay me. And, like, what managers take is a very, very large chunk. You have managers who take 20% of your gross earnings. Like, so like that's like pretty standard. So like, he was just being honest, and it was great. And he's like, you guys can do this yourselves. He's like, you're not going to change your sound so you get on the radio, so you don't need my help for that. He's like, you just kind of can go. And, since then it's been a great thing for us, because nobody cares about your band more than the members of the band. And, there are times where the guys come to us and they're like, hey, I don't feel like I'm being heard enough, because sometimes JB and I can just kind of go on autopilot and be like, oh, I'm getting this done, I'm getting this done, I'm getting this done, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then we just like kind of dispel the information to everyone else. And sometimes we need to like back up and be like, okay, I don't agree with that. That can happen, and that's fine. And we try to mitigate that as much as we can. But, like I said, no one cares about your band as much as the dudes in it. And the other guys in the band know that we have all of our best interests at heart, because we're in the band. We're not going to make decisions that are detrimental at all, because we also are here, and we need to make good choices.
This story is one of one, because every book, everything I've seen, like Elton John's autobiography, all these things, like the manager destroys everything. It's like, separate interest that has nothing to do with the band, that just produce a bigger paycheck for him personally or her personally.
Yeah, there's good managers out there for sure. We're part of a management group called Tandem. We only manage August Burns Red, but it's just like a great way for us to actually like have like a legit email, and we have resources. We bounce ideas off each other. And I would recommend any of the guys in that group to be a band manager for sure. Like, if you feel like your band needs it, they're honest dudes. They do good work. They work hard for their bands, but there are a lot of managers who don't do anything. Like, I'll send out emails to the other bands on a tour, and it goes to their manager. 5 days later, I'm like, where is this? What are you doing? And then like literally the day before a tour starts, I'll have the band come back and be like, hey, our logo is not big enough, or we don't like the logo. We hate how our name looks in this ad, Matt. And I'm like, you know what, guys, too bad, so sad. I hit your manager up weeks ago for this, and I'm sorry he didn't show it to you until yesterday. So like, if you want to be mad at someone, you can be mad at them, and it's just, a lot of people take on too much. As far as it's easy as a manager to go, I can bring on another band, I can bring on another band, I can bring on another band, but then it just ends up being way too much unless you have a big staff beneath you, because it's a lot. You're running pretty much, if you have 10 bands, you're running 10 small businesses as a manager.
Exactly. Small business.
It's just too much.
Yep.
It's just too much, And
I mean, varying in size and dealing with different people and venues and tour managers and all that. Yeah, it's 2 or 3 for one person is probably nuts.
Right, because I mean, the average band, like a band our size, is going to have the band and then crew members. So you're dealing with just us, 12 people, plus our booking agency, plus our record label, plus our business management team. So like right there, like if you just had all those people under one umbrella, and then you have, like I said, 5 bands with that, like it's too much. It's really hard to deal with, and you're not sleeping. They get burnt out really fast. So it's hard to stick with a good one.
Well, and you can make decisions quicker. You're the mouthpiece that, again, I'm sure there's bigger decisions that you consult the group with, but stuff that doesn't need to be, kind of ping pong back and forth, you just answer it and move on.
Yeah, I mean, the other guys, we had a talk recently to start the year. We just kind of did like a catch up with everyone what the plan was for the year. And, Jake, our singer, has a gym, and he's just like, I don't want to be on every email. I don't want to be like, no, like the willy nilly, like just like whatever random crap that goes on every single day, all day long. He's like, I got other stuff I want to do. That's what you guys are here for. So it works out well in that way for sure. And we get things done a lot faster. We get decisions made a lot faster, which is great.
Plus, if you're dealing with any sketchy promoters and they're like, let me talk to the manager, you're like, I am the manager.
Let me speak to the manager.
Hey, Karen, I'm right here.
Brent pokes his head out from behind. Yeah.
There's definitely stuff like that comes up on tour. Our tour manager just walks up to me. He's like, hey, is this right? I'm like, no. And I have to go in and like talk to people. There's like a new thing that's happening that's pretty great where we work with a marketing company, like a digital marketing company, and they will go to promoters and say, we want a portion of your marketing budget, and we're going to run ad campaigns through the band's socials for you because we're going to do it better than you, kind of thing. And I have to deal with that sometimes on tour because the promoters completely forget they signed up for it and owe us, because we front all the money for their ads then. So I have to like sometimes deal with that. They'll just completely forgot they signed up for that. And they're like, wait, why do I owe you $200? I'm like, because you signed up for this thing and now you owe me $200.
Right. So let's talk some new music here. So cool. August Burns Red, new album, new label, 10th, double digits, 10th studio album. Where do you even start? So the 9th album finishes. You're like, all right, it's about that time. Where do you even start?
We started right away because Guardians came out. We were 3 days into our tour, and then Guardians came out as the pandemic hit. So we literally got sidelined right as our last record came out. So, we're just like, all right, well, we can do nothing or we can write music. So the original JB and Dustin started writing music and had ideas pretty much right away. And the idea was just to do a 4-song EP that we were going to self-release ourselves.
Oh, wow.
And then it just got to the point where we just kept having more and more material. And we're like, okay, all this stuff's really good. So we're just going to keep going here and we'll make it a full length. And the intent was still to kind of self-release it. And then, fast forward into the pandemic, we did a self-release version of Leveler, the 10-year anniversary thing. And for JB and I, it was just a pain in the butt. We're like, with managing the band and now running this web store, it's just too much for us to also want to self-release an actual like full-length album. Doing the 10-year anniversary thing was enough. So that's when we decided to start working with a label again. But yeah, we just kind of started writing immediately and recorded the record in like 4 or 5 different steps and when we could. And we had like one big push at the beginning of 2022 where we finished up everything, did vocals, did all the drums and all that stuff.
Well, and it's called Death Below. It comes out on March 24th of 2023. And it's, early contender for album of the year for the 3 of us. So we've listened to it a little bit, and it's not a record that you could write as your first or second record either. Like there's some musicianship, there's some camaraderie, there's some, you've been together as a band for a while, just listening to it. How has that all kind of developed over the years?
I mean, this record for us is definitely it's dense. You know, we kind of went back and forth in the beginning. It is not a I would say it's not a record for the current like musical climate that we're in, where you put out a single on Spotify that's 3 minutes long and hope it gets streamed a lot. This is that we put out an album, you know, that's meant to be listened to from start to finish. The songs flow together. They like go together. They make sense the way it all was put together. And that was the goal. And I think for us and for our fan base, they'll appreciate that. You know, like we don't have 2 million monthly Spotify listeners, but we have a ton of followers of people who just follow the band and aren't like, we don't have a lot of passive listeners is what I will say. Like there aren't people who just listen to one August Burns Red song and that's the one track they listen to. Like we have, you know, people who like the band, they like the band. And so we wanted to make a record like this because currently, like I said, most people are just putting out a single here, a single there, single here, and then eventually like 9 months later there's an album or something like that. So we just thought, you know, we didn't want to go that route. And so we made an album that goes from start to finish and it's going to test your patience.
I had a question about the record label. I know you kind of, you know, talked about it for a second there, but I just wanted to circle back to it because just the climate that we're in currently, was it, I mean, and especially because you manage your band, were you basically shopping it, or did you have interest in since you're managing, you can kind of make that executive call?
We didn't, like, the music wasn't really done at that point. Well, we had some music done, but we didn't really want to show anyone in case we decided to go the self-release route. We were just kind of like, look, do you want to sign August Burns Red or not? And obviously most people are like, yeah, sure. And we went for a very like aggressive deal for ourselves, which is how we ended up eliminating a lot of people. We talked to pretty much everyone, you know, but we just had what we wanted to have, which was a short-term licensing deal that was skewed in our favor heavily. Because we've been around for, you know, so long now that it's just like, you're going to get a built-in fan base. It's going to be a record that, you know, people are going to come by. And so when we were looking at labels, that was the big determining factor. Then we got it down to like the last three, and it was just kind of bouncing back and forth between who was going to make it the most artist friendly for us, and that's kind of where we landed.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming to the table with, we are established. We're a band that's been around a while. We know what we're doing. This is where we're at musically. You're gonna get all these folks. I mean, you said you don't have 2 million monthly Spotify listeners. You're close to 1 million, which is pretty wild, especially for this, you know, the type of music you guys make. Like you said, you've got to sit down and be into it. And we've listened to it a little bit, and man, it's awesome. And like to know all those things and be able to kind of pick where you want to go that's a cool spot to be as a band, I would imagine.
Yeah, we were lucky, and we've just been fortunate through our whole career. Like we talk about that a lot. Like it's doing well in the music industry is a lot of luck, and building good relationships. Like that's the best thing you can do. We have successfully built long-term relationships with pretty much everyone we work with. So we have like a good team of people behind us who want to do right by us because of how long we've just been working together. I mean, even like it comes down to like working with Live Nation. And I mean, there's so many bands who have big problems with Live Nations and things like that, but we've had such a great relationship with our specific person that we've worked with for such a long time that like, we don't have gripes. I know there are gripes to be had 1,000,000% for sure, but that's just where we've been lucky. We just like to work with the same people and go back to them. And, you know, it just helps a lot.
Well, as Tony was saying, me personally, like I've listened to the album probably 6 times. I texted these guys today. I was like, I know it's early, but it's my album of the year so far. I want to talk a couple tracks here. So like take The Cleansing, 8 minutes long. That is 100% a song that, one, doesn't feel 8 minutes, but two, I don't think you guys could have put that out before maybe 5 years ago. I don't know if folks would have truly got it. And I don't know if you guys would have maybe taken that risk, but it really worked. And I'm not going to give too much away. If you're listening, hopefully the record's out by now. Go listen to that track and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Right. I mean, that was a talk for maybe being a single. And then we moved away and went with Reckoning instead. And it's just like, you know, you can tell that the record was written at a dark time period. And I think that you know, that track is pretty reminiscent of that, and it just kind of kicks things off like with the mood. Like, well, actually, the first song kicked things off with pretty dark mood, but yeah, the Cleansing, like is a cool track. We all really like. When I say black metal, I'm not talking about like Mayhem and bands like that. Like we like I guess the wimpy kind, like Death Heaven. Like so, like we all really enjoy that kind of music, and we just wanted to incorporate that more than we ever have, and we really did that on this record. And unfortunately for our drummer Matt,
he was busy. He's busy on this album. Especially on that track. I'm
very busy.
I was like, is that even human?
We're all getting older, and it's just like, hey, like, it's just funny. We started this tour. Everyone's got tendonitis somewhere on their body from trying to play this freaking music. And he's just like, going harder than ever on the drums. And I'm like, oh,
his calves must be just swole right now.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, it's some punishment. Luckily, we aren't playing that one yet, but it's a great opening track. We all love it. And yeah, I agree. I don't think we could have put that out 5 years ago. I don't think, because at that point, I think people kind of still related August Burns Red to like the more like meddler sound or Ghost. There wasn't that darker element that we've kind of incorporated a little later into the career.
So what are the ones that you're enjoying playing live right now from the new record?
We're only playing Ancestry and Backfire right now. Both are extremely difficult to play. I play bass for Backfire, so that's kind of fun. I like doing that. But yeah, they're going over pretty well. It's always hard to determine how well the songs are going to go over, especially if something like we're doing a 20-year anniversary tour. So we're really kind of looking back on like the previous career of the band. And then we're throwing these 2 new songs in the mix. So we weren't sure how it was going to be received, but obviously we got to play them. But they're going over well. And it's fun. It's always fun to play new music and see what people think.
Well, Backfire has that like chant at the end.
Right.
That's ripe for a live show.
Mm-hmm. We have excellent video of we're going to put out sometime. So the way we made that chant was we had a handful of the guys go into the audio booth and literally sing that part in like an operatic voice.
That's
the best they could, and then we like went in and like edited it and like added reverb and all kinds of stuff to it to get, and like literally was like turned JB's voice into 5,000 people's voices and things like that. Like, but it was a hysterical experience that we're like, this isn't going to be cool. This isn't going to come out good. And then at the end, we're like, oh, all right, this is pretty cool.
Can you give us a sample of it?
I didn't do it.
No. So Brent, I don't know if this is going to be in the intro, but Brent is in a hotel lounge, so it would have been funny for him to belt it out right now.
Oh yeah, I can't. This hotel is playing the loudest lobby music of all time.
We can hear it. Yeah, insane. Don't worry. I'll get it cleaned up as best I can in post.
It's nuts.
We'll get a copyright claim for the background.
Yeah, we've been like doing interviews down here all day, and there's no one at the front desk ever to be like, "Hey, can you just turn this shit down, please?"
Please, loud. Natalie Imbruglia's Torn is way too loud right now. Right. Turn that shit down.
Right. Yeah. Oh well.
So features, you got some pretty awesome features on the record. How do you guys go about pulling that off? Like, what do you like? Sit down and say, we want this person, or do you just know right out the gate?
Sometimes it's just like it can be hard to get guests. We like really like struck gold on this record. In past records, we've been like, hey, do you want to do guest stuff? And they're always like, we'd love to. We're just so busy. We got lucky in the fact that no one was touring because of the freaking pandemic. Right. And we were just like, hey, you want to do guest stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, sure, because I have absolutely nothing else to do. But yeah, we wanted Jesse to do it. We just toured with them, and we thought Spencer's voice would work really well for that part. And then we hit up Jason Richardson, and he was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Like, I'd love to. And he literally made that guitar solo that's in that song, that ridiculous solo, and like he had it recorded to us in like a day. I'm like, dude, I couldn't play this in 40 freaking years.
I thought you were gonna say one take, and I was like, all right, that dude's a freak.
Yeah,
he might have. The fact that he did it in one day, I'm like, oh my god, dude. I'm like, do you just have like pre-recorded guitar solos? I mean,
that's probably what he did.
But like, but that worked out really well. And then JT Cavy's just a bud. He's a friend. He lives in Maryland, so it's super close. And we were just like, we were almost like the mean uncles that were like, hey, you're going to drive up here and you're going to scream on this track. And he's like, all right, fine. So we got him to come up and do that. So that was good and easy. And his voice sounds awesome on that song. So, but yeah, I mean, it just worked out really well. Like we've tried in the past to get people. And like I said, it can just be really difficult because everyone's got schedules. And everyone has like different things they want to do. Like we asked Winston from Parkway Drive and he was like, I'd love to. He's like, well, we're about to put out new music. He's like, and I totally understood. He's like, I don't really want like the first thing that comes out with my voice on it to be not one of my band's songs, like in a long time. And I'm like, totally get it. Like makes tons of sense. Absolutely. So like you get stuff like that, but like, sometimes it works out well, and it really did this time.
That actually brought me to a question that I was going to ask anyway, which is, it sounds like you have a lot of buddies in the industry and whatever. And like Jesse Leach, for instance, we had him on the pod, like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. But ultimately, like you manage your band, he's got to manage. These people have people to report to. So do they ever intervene? They're like you said, like we have an album coming out. We don't want that to be pre-drop the record. That's going to kind of take the attention away. I'm sure that happens, right?
Yeah, that for sure has that effect. And like everyone asks their band members and things like that, and they might be like, oh yeah, I don't know about that. Like I said, we want to save you for this kind of thing, and that makes sense. And you kind of deal with the managers like after the fact. Like, look, we've been around for so long. We've dealt with a lot of these bands' managers already. Parkway Drive is pretty self-managed as well, so that's just super easy. But yeah, we dealt with Kenny and Vaughn still manage Killswitch, and they were our early on managers. The manager I told you guys about worked with them for a long time, and then they split, and then we stayed with our manager Chuck, who was our day-to-day guy, because he was just the guy we talked to every day, whereas Kenny and Vaughn were more like the figureheads. So we still have a great relationship with them, and so that was easy. And then Spencer's manager was a guy we reached out to him for advice before and things like that. But yeah, it gets once you're like actually do the vocal spot, that's when you have like the things come in where it's just like, okay, we got to sign this paperwork now for releases and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's kind of after the fact.
Well, we love the Killswitch guys. We've had Jesse on, we've had Justin on. It just huge fans of that band as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. It's like the Parkway Drive thing. Brent, can you imagine like 15, maybe 18 years ago, you wanted to feature one of your buddies on the song. And it's like, no, guys, I want my music to come out first. Right. It just shows you like how leveled up the game is. It's crazy.
Right. Well, it's cool. Like they've been around for so long too. And that band is absolutely gigantic. And, who knows? Maybe he just didn't want to do it and they made up a reason.
It's like, I want no part of that new ABR album.
Yeah, they made it up a nice reason. No, we know those guys are super nice people, but like I just think that it's fun. It is interesting. Like 15 years ago, you would never imagine like asking someone to do a guest vocal spot because you're just small potatoes at that point, and you are literally just grasping at straws to try and get someone who's bigger than your band to be on your release. Like that is the ultimate goal. You want people who have their own like gravitational pull. Like that's who you want to be your guest spot. That's who you're looking for.
We can relate to that. We could definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So again, depends on when you listen to this, we're a few weeks out from the album. Like what is maybe to summarize us, like what are you most proud about this album? I mean, you're 10 in. Like what do you even do from here?
Right. I mean, I'm just proud we're still here. But like the fact that we made like the record that we wanted to make and didn't kind of like, go with the industry's trend of just doing like a really like short songs that are going to get a ton of spins on Spotify, get on these huge playlists and things like that. I'm happy we did that. And in the beginning, I'll be honest, I was kind of saying like, maybe this is a bad move. As band manager, I kind of need to like, just kind of put this out there, guys, like that. This probably isn't the best format for today's climate. And, so we went back and forth with that a good bit. But in the end, I'm happy we did it this way. I'm happy that we have an album that is like this. That is you're going to sit down and listen to it from start to finish, and you're going to need to listen to it a bunch of times before you understand and grasp fully like everything that's happening. And that's cool because I think that's kind of lacking today. Although there are bands like that band Sleep Token, they're putting out like 7-minute tracks and people love it. So that's cool. But yeah, I mean, I'm just happy we did that. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud that like this is the biggest headline tour we've ever done, and it's we're 20 years into our career. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome, and you're right. I mean, I think there is an appetite for these longer format, kind of linear type songs. I mean, shit, we've been listening to Tool for 25 years, you know?
Right.
They're
right.
out there.
Right.
People love that shit, and you'll find the fans that are the ones that will come back for everything doing that.
Right.
So
right. It's very true. Like Tool is a great example of that, but they've also had those songs that are only 3.5, 4 minutes long to go on the radio, and then they're like, oh, this band's awesome, and then the rest of the album is a patient tester.
True.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I remember double albums back in the day used to count for two sales, right? So maybe the algorithm should be over a certain minute mark. It's a couple spins. Just saying, throw that out there.
Right. It would be nice if you got paid per minutes listened to, not per stream, because then we'd be like, we'd be up here, I think. But yeah, because we get those end of the year recaps, and like we see so many bands that are like, they have way more monthly listeners or whatever than us, but like if you look at like time listened to, we're always
way down.
Yeah, it's cool. I just people spend a lot of time listening to us, and that's just because we have a great fan base that wants to be here, and they like what we put out. And then, like I said before, they don't like just one song, they like a lot of stuff, and that's awesome.
Yeah. And now we're gonna get albums from bands that are 200 minutes long, and just to get people in the door, baby. Let's go.
Right.
Brent, I will say, if you think about longevity, not a ton of band members, consistency, you guys could be the modern metalcore blueprint.
Yeah,
you could be.
Or like Lamb of God. I really consider them. They've had a lot of stay members. They've had one member change that I can.
It's impressive.
That really I can think of. Like they've really kept a lot of the same members. So is Parkway. Parkway's kept a lot of the same members for as long as we have, I think, for sure.
Nate, throw us a curveball to close us.
Oh, ooh, I got a big one. Well, because I was thinking of like if you're reaching out to guests, like I'm sure you have like a little diary of like, oh, dude, I want to get Darren from System of a Down. Not only is that a segue to maybe get on a System of a Down tour that happens every 10 years, but also, you're a fan. So you guys covered Chop Suey, and there's like a rumor out there that they also play The Legend of Zelda, both of which you covered. So how did those come about?
I mean, he would never in a million years do it, but you can always go for the shots in the dark. But we just try and keep it within our world and keep it feasible. I guess we'd obviously love to play any shows we could with those guys. Everyone in the band loves System of a Down. Like they're like the coolest radio rock band of all time. I think like they just. They literally are playing blast beats on the radio. Like you listen back to their like original like big hits, and I'm like, how is this a radio song? Like, it's crazy.
It doesn't make
crazy. Sense.
Yeah, they're an anomaly to how they became what they became. It's crazy.
They're just so eccentric. It's wild. I love it.
Well, and you're not supposed to cover them, and you guys, I got to tell you pulled it off. Did a great job with it.
Jake did a killer job, like I had said, like none of us can sing, but like the whole fact of the matter is he went in there and he just freaking nailed it. Like it's he really killed it. Like, but yeah, that cover came out really awesome, and that was just one of those things that we had so much time over the pandemic that we just wanted to do stuff, and we're like, all right, we're gonna do this, and the producers we've used for like the last 15 years all live right around us. They had this absolutely beautiful new studio, and we're like, yeah, we'll just spend some time in here and do cool stuff. So worked out.
What are the steps to even cover a song? Do you have to reach out to Columbia, Sony, and be like, hey, we want to cover this, and get like the thumbs up, or do you just go for it?
No, you can just do it, and then like I said, it's on the label back end. Then like there's, as long as it's like paid out properly, no one cares, and like it has to be
really true.
Like you can't put, like we wouldn't be able to release it physically, or no, we could. We would just have to they just have to get all their publishing royalties from it, So it's just goes like that. Like, and honestly, like they're probably like, thanks, you guys put out this version of our song, and now it's earning us royalties. Cool.
And then people listen to yours, and then go listen to theirs, so they get the spin too. Like, yeah,
right.
Yeah, they're happy with that stuff. Awesome. Yeah. Well, shit, we want to get you out of here because we know you had a time constraint. But man, awesome. Brent, thank you for coming on with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
New album, Death Below, Sharptone Records, March 24th. It's fucking awesome. It really is.
It's awesome.
Thank
I'm not
you.
blowing smoke. Like
I'm glad you like it.
We, the people we talk to, we love the music, and this is up there, man.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
Cool. We'll check you out on tour. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Podio Slave. We are at Podio Slave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podio Slave Podcast. YouTube, Podio Slave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.